Welcome to Torah Smash, the podcast for nerdy Jews, where our lives of Jewish learning collide with our love of nerd culture. I'm Ethan Lane Miller, and joining me today are
Barak Malkin,
RDY.
In each episode, we discuss what we lovingly call a Torah Smash, which we have defined as a beautiful collision of one thing from the world of Judaism with another from nerd culture. I am very excited for today's topic because when Barak, you talked about the idea of doing this podcast, this was one of those half ideas that's been floating around in the back of my hand or back of my mind for a while. And
it sounds like how they introduced, was it Wally for Pixar? Like when we met first, we had all these ideas, and the final one was about this little robot.
Close. Yeah. I mean, this has been like, the actual secret, as Barak knows, is most of my podcast ideas so far have all been like this half-baked idea that's taken a little while for me to like actually make it work. And I'm very excited. I found a way to make this work. I have found my touchstone text that I'm using to help guide this conversation. And so just as I believe it was the last episode I hosted, I'm back into Pirkei Avot. This time, we are in chapter 5, verse 21. And the portion, it's all in a section about, well, the section leading into it is talking about things from Judah ben Tima. I don't know anything about who that is, RDY, if you have any commentary on that.
Sure. Yehuda ben Tima, not much is known about him. He's a fourth generation Tana, student of Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi.
Amazing. Well,
wow.
It's quoting things that he has said. And in chapter 5, verse 21, it goes, he used to say, at 5 years of age, the study of scripture. At 10, the study of Mishnah. At 13, subject to the commandments. At 15, the study of Talmud. At 18, the bridal canopy. At 20, for pursuit of livelihood. At 30, the peak of strength. At 40, wisdom. At 50, able to give counsel. At 60, old age. At 70, fullness of years. At 80, the age of strength. At 90, a bent body. At 100, as good as dead and gone completely out of the world.
No offense to anyone on the Smucker's jars.
What?
You know, on the news when they show the Smucker's jars for people who are over 100 and celebrating a birthday that day?
No, I don't think so. The jelly?
Oh, yeah, you should watch. Yeah. It's like Al Roker does it on the Today Show.
That's fun. Thanks, Al.
So
Al Roker, if you're a listener, I love you.
Write in, please. So that is my anchoring text.
Okay, and we have to guess the nerd piece combining that. But like I'm thinking, you know, some movie that spans like Bicentennial Man with Rob Williams, like he watches the kids grow until old age, or maybe Benjamin Button where it goes in reverse. I don't know.
Oh, those are great guesses and could be a great future episode, but not this time.
Way off.
I'm thinking like Keeping Up with the Steins, or one of the, like Adam Sandler is doing a bar mitzvah movie right now.
Oh, I saw that in Canada.
Yeah. So
you like a coming of age story. Is it film, Ethan?
So it is not a film, but I'll tell you, coming of age story is definitely part of the topic that I want to talk about.
Okay, can you give us
Harry Potter?
It's broad.
Oh,
very broad, higher level.
Can you give us some sort of direction here?
I mean, without spoiling. Specifically,
there's no specific nerd category per se. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
What?
I want to explore and talk about.
Wait! Don't spoil it. RDY has a guess,
please.
Is it about B'nai Mitzvah?
It is.
Okay, because now I'm cheating a little.
Wait, how is this a nerd culture?
It is. I want to talk about and explore milestones in nerd culture, both in the sense of like in actual different nerd mediums, but also on the meta level of in nerd culture. What are those milestones of being a nerd?
Oh,
So-
that's fun.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought we were like gonna visit Kitty Pryde and gonna visit the Steins, like he said. But
we
you
still
want-
could.
Yeah, great.
This is awesome. I got to tell you, I was thinking about this today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's very funny.
On probably on a meta level,
Yeah.
but just this, like, I was in the car a lot today, hauling kids from place to place, and I was thinking about how when I was a kid, I was really into superheroes and Dungeons and Dragons and all the nerdy movies, and like I looked like I walked right off of the set of Revenge of the Nerds, and I used to have to hide it. I used to have to hide my nerd culture. I was afraid to show people the things that I liked. Finding out that someone else played D&D was a big scandal, because then it meant, because I would never say it out loud at school, God forbid, but, oh, you play Dungeons, so that kind of thing. But today it's so easy and so accepted. And like, we've got a blinking podcast about it. And I would never have publicized it as a kid. So this is definitely something that's been on my mind.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
curious of what your questions are to guide us. Is there do you have a first
Me
question
too.
to get us going?
Yeah. So my problem is I had a couple of first questions.
What a problem.
Just
That's so
to
Jewish.
to gauge, like, where did people go, where did people react, and what were people thinking of. And so I think I'll start with the meta question, talking about us as human beings and as nerds, and particularly for you, RDY, and for you, Barak, as people who have children. When we think of that verse of from Pirkei Avot, and we think about, at this age you should be doing this, at this age you should be doing this. What are the nerd milestones you would want your young nerd to cross off their list as they age?
Oh, this is such a good question.
Yeah, it is.
I think I have some thought. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
If you have something, go for it.
So I, as RDY just said, there's plenty in the world now that is out in the open. And 2 years ago, I took my son to comic book day at my go-to comic book store, and we're waiting in the line. And right on the maybe 3 years ago, it was pre-pandemic, so 3 years ago, and waiting in line, right there on the shelf next to us was a alphabet block book. If you've seen those, like, each page is like a really thick letter, and you turn it and there's like images, and it was a Marvel alphabet block book. So when my first son could start talking, he had at one point memorized almost every single Marvel superhero in that book. And it goes from, it's the MCU based, so frontal characters and secondary characters and some tertiary characters, and he was able to either name or point out on the back page with everybody's profile every superhero. I don't know if that is what I would consider a need, but I would, and this is I think this is like a larger parenting question, but I would really like for him to have some of these interests, because I really love these interests, but I don't know what interests he's going to have. I grew up, my dad only had on the Sci-Fi Channel and mostly played Star Trek, and I am a huge nerd for like science fiction stuff. I was likely indoctrinated subconsciously because that's all that was on. So that's what I'm doing. We put Mario stickers on his walls. They've got tribbles in their room. They have a monster, Mike and Sully lamp. There's like a lot of things, plenty of stuffed dolls of Lightning McQueen and Zelda, and like tons of stuff in their space that I am subconsciously saying, these are the cool things that you're going to look back and say, that's my childhood and I loved that. So specific milestone, I think it's like recognition. I think at this age that I have, I'm looking for I want to go out and be like, look, Mario, I did something, or Mario. I know that I have the Jersey accent. I apologize for people yelling at us.
It's me, Barak.
I thought it's me, Mario. And people are like, no. I get yelled at all the time for saying Mario instead of
We're
Mario.
gonna go to get some water at the Wawa.
Wawa is in mostly southern Jersey, central. I'm a little further north, but I appreciate the attempt, you Texan.
2.5 years in South Jersey.
Yeah. RDY, what would you say a milestone for the kids? nerdy milestone?
It's such an interesting question because my mind started going on a tangent on the history of my children. My children are older than Barack's, and I remember as a kid, as a younger parent, indoctrinating them with superheroes and superhero culture, superhero movies, and as tweens. Yeah, I mean, it's been several years that the MCU has been being produced, but we all five of us knew that when a Marvel movie came out, we were going to see it first weekend, come, anything or high water. And is that not a family friendly word? I don't know. It's a location. Sorry. So I think about some milestone moments for me were watching Star Wars with my children.
I'm looking forward to that.
And the best thing to do with a child who has never seen Star Wars, like the good ones, episodes 4, 5, and 6, and then all the John Favreau stuff. But to watch Star Wars with your children, and then that moment in Empire when you find out that Vader is Luke's father.
I'm nodding my head. This is one of those milestones that was in my mind too.
So here's what I say to both of you. When you're watching this movie with your children, at that moment, do not, under any circumstances, look at the screen. Look at your children.
Because there's a whole movement of recordings of this.
It is amazing. So Gabriel's reaction, my oldest, was better than any of the recordings that I've seen. And I'm sorry that I didn't record it. I'm not the kind of like,
treasure
I'm
that
not the
for
kind
your
of
own
person
memory.
who,
Yeah.
And Alex just stood there like he like slowly stood up off the couch and was just like, his jaw dropped. It was amazing. And he was like wearing nothing but a diaper. So
funny.
So to like, maybe he was beyond diapers at this point. Maybe it was like shorts, but I remember him like half naked staring at the screen, like, what just happened? Look on his face. That is one of my favorite moments as a parent. And then Bella did the same thing when we watched it with her, and she just didn't care. So, but here's what's happened since then, sadly, is that because I am such a vocal nerd and children like to rebel against their parents, they don't want to watch the superhero movies with me anymore, except when I pay for it in the theater. And they don't necessarily need to like read the comic books with me. Like I used to read comic books to them when they were little. And yet they all have, Alex less so than the other two, but Gabriel is very, very into anime. And Bella is very, very into drawing like fantastical creatures. And she's into Pokemon and anime and all anything that's got great art, except superheroes, because I like that.
Still pretty nerdy there.
Yeah. So like I still get to watch them do things as nerds, but it's not the nerdy stuff that I'm necessarily connected to.
I'm really looking forward to that.
And that's another level.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to that milestone you talked about of the watching movies stage and like having a family movie night situation. And in preparation, if you are a continuous listener, our last episode was about Back to the Future. And in preparation for that episode, I actually had my older son, who's only about 4, but we have so many, there's not a lot of movies out there that are like age appropriate for him. But when I thought about it, in the first one, there's no guns, there's no scary monster villain creature thing. And the worst thing really is like maybe the tension buildup of is the time travel going to work, and I guess there is guns with the Libyans. I quickly fast forwarded that with him.
Right.
And the fight scene at the prom, or the under the sea dance.
That's generous.
Yeah. Right. So So those are the worst. So he watched it with me and I fast forwarded through the Libyan shooting. Everything else was like a car chase there. So that was really fun for me, but I still think he's like a little too on the young side. But he afterwards was like, I wish I remember what he called it. He's like, can we watch the movie where they go for the future? And I want to so much. So he liked it, which was great, but he's not at an age to like fully comprehend the full concept of everything for it. I'm really looking forward to that stage. Yeah.
I really loved what you said in that last episode too about Back to the Future, Barack. You had some amazing points. So listeners, go listen to that episode.
It was a fun one. It was good. Yeah. Okay. So Ethan, that was the parent question.
Yeah, I'll share some of my inspiration for this actually came from a Washington Post article that came out just earlier this month, being August when we're recording. Sorry to smash the perception out there, everybody.
This episode comes out in November.
I know.
We are well ahead. It's a high
Wow.
holiday season. We are Jewish professionals. We needed to prepare. So you get a sense of how prepared and organized we are. Sorry, continue, Ethan.
I'll read a section and then I'll tell you what the title of the article is. But the section is Parents often record life's firsts, a baby's first steps, a child's first bike ride, a teenager's first dance. But recently, some couples have started to treasure something new, their kids' first Pokemon.
What?
And the title is The Kids Who Grew Up on Pokemon Are Raising Trainers of Their Own.
Wow.
That's so funny. My kid, he didn't really get his first Pokemon. My wife's favorite Pokemon is Lickitung. And so for her birthday, I got her like a stuffed doll animal of a Lickitung. And eventually, like, the kids took it, now it's in their room. So technically, they've received their first Pokemon already. But I played the blue version on my Game Boy and have enjoyed like Pokemon Snap and Pokemon Stadium. And I was in the Pokemon Go phase, right, a couple of years ago. I don't think I'm going to raise them to be trainers. I think they'll be familiar, but now there's too many. I knew the 150. I know a few of the new ones.
Well, what happens in this article is there are parents who like purchase a plush of the first 3 starting Pokemon from Red and Blue, like, and they put in front of their kid, here's a Bulbasaur, here's Squirtle's Charmander.
Amazing.
Which one do you pick?
And you don't give them Pikachu as an option?
I mean, maybe some do Pikachu and Eevee, I don't know, but it's
Isn't
incredible.
Pikachu kind of a lame Pokemon?
Oh, those are fighting words.
Well, I mean,
you're gonna get some people upset
as like the main character for the show.
Pokemon to defend myself.
That's okay. Continue. Yeah, let's jump out of this.
Yeah, what's incredible, and this article points out, is Pokemon as a franchise is 26 years old, and
wow,
you know,
that adds up.
Right, for my generation, I think it was the middle of elementary school when Pokemon like really took off. And like, yeah, these are my peers who are now raising young children. And one of my best friends, his daughter, obsessed with Pikachu. Like, it's absolutely generational. There's something really cool about it.
It's super fun. I still have my deck like in there. I bought baseball card sleeves because, you know, nerds didn't have their own Pokemon sleeves. I have an entire binder of my Pokemon cards. And I don't think they've seen them yet because I have no reason to pull them out, but I also didn't want to get rid of it. I have not thought about that as a stage. I don't think this is a stage for me. Next.
Okay.
Artie, why?
But I think it's well, no, Pokemon is not a stage for me, but I think it's fascinating to hear about it. And the timeline that you point out also explains why I was not into Pokemon, because I was, you know, at the end of and post college when it was created, and probably gaining steam while I was in rabbinical school.
So I was at the beginning of high school.
Sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder if there is something else though. Like if they're training the future trainers, I bet each of us could find something else that we at an appropriate age like taught them to be that. Right, we're training Jedis or wizards or
On that topic.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
I thought of another milestone with my kids, and that was reading Harry Potter.
Oh, that's nice.
And my eldest was obsessed for a long time with Harry Potter and like Harry Potter trivia, and knew everything about everything supposedly.
Nice. Okay. What would be a B'nai Mitzvah ceremony for someone to be welcomed as an adult into nerd culture? Would it be reciting Klingon, learning to use a lightsaber, reading Lord of the Rings in Elvish?
What is the ceremony?
That's so great.
I think it depends on what your nerdism is. Like, is it going to is it going to Comic-Con? Is it reading the entirety of the Lord of the Rings with all of the addendums? Right? As Miriam did that as a young age. Go back and listen to episode 10. I don't know.
It's such a good question. I would say, I think for someone whose nerddom comes out of Star Trek, then yeah, they should absolutely have to recite something in Klingon, or if it's, or if they're into
or
Lord
at
of the
least
Rings,
be able
they
to
should
do the
absolutely-
live long and prosper sign.
If you can't hold the space between your
Middle and
fingers
ring,
and
yeah.
hold that out, that's problematic. But but to be able to say something in Elvish, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, or very few authors had that depth of creating a whole language like Tolkien did. But speaking Hebrew from the Bima, even though they don't really in America tend to understand what they're saying, that's part of the ritual. Although I will say, I tell my B'nai Mitzvah students that when they turn 13, they are B'nai Mitzvah. You read from Pirkei Avot. At 13, I think you translated it as something like at 13 subject to the commandments. In Hebrew, it's, subject to the commandments is translated as B'nai Mitzvah. I think in Pirkei Avot it just says La Mitzvah, but being B'nai Mitzvah, it's one of those weird things. It translates to literally children of the commandments, but that's not what it means, because that phrase doesn't mean anything. Commandments don't have children, because the words ben and bat in Hebrew, bar and bat in Aramaic, b'nai in both languages, those words, they literally translate to ben and bar are son, bat is daughter, and b'nai is children. B'nai is not really usually said alone.
And benot. There's b'nai and benot.
Benot is also, benot is specifically only girls.
Yeah.
B'nai is children or boys.
Right.
And benot is a word on its own. B'nai is not. So that gets a little, we're going to get too deep into grammar. But those words, when attached to another noun, are known as nouns of relation. This is a very weird Hebrew grammar thing. And a noun of relation changes the meaning of the whole phrase in such a way that directly translating it doesn't really help us understand what it means. As an example, bar yad is a phrase that translates to son of a hand. But what it means is a tool. So B'nai Mitzvah, though it translates to children of the commandments, what it means is a person obligated to the commandments, or easier said, a Jewish adult. And when they turn 13, it just happens. 13 is the age of mitzvah, not 13 is the age that you have to get all fancy dressed up, go to synagogue on a Saturday, read Torah and Haftarah in front of your family and strangers. It just happens. Now, being able to do all of those things proves that you deserve the title B'nai Mitzvah. So that's really what you're asking. What do our children do to deserve the title nerd?
See, that's a great. I was starting to go in my head the other way of like thinking of the preparation and a thing to celebrate. And so part of me said, for those big Disney fans out there, there's like, let's watch some of the movies and then we're going to go to Disneyland. And that for them, their child is now a Disney nerd if they have gone to one of the Disney parks, right? I feel like that is and I'm trying to think, what are other things? So you're saying it's just there's an age or a situation that just the light switch goes on and now they're considered a nerd, as opposed, I would say that's birth for my family. Like they're born into this household, flip the switch, you're a nerd.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have an age thing. And I'm trying to figure out, aside from like going to Disneyland, what are the other, and like, what is the thing that you do? Preparation.
I'm gonna fight you on this one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Fight you on this one, because going to Disneyland is not just for nerds.
No, I know. Oh, I
but
see.
Going to Disneyland, like subtly dressed as characters, because you're not allowed to dress as characters when you go to Disney. But you can very subtly tailor your outfit to represent a character. That's nerdy.
It's called bounding. Not bounding.
Yeah, it's got a name.
It's got a name.
It's got a name. Sorry, Disney fans.
Hold on, pause.
Shackett Briskins taught me about this. So Shackett Briskins, if you're listening, tell us what it's called. Write in and shame us for not remembering. Are you Googling it?
Yeah, I am. I was right. Disney bounding. I was correct. Look at me. I'm a Disney nerd, friends.
That's great.
Yay!
I'd have to thank my sister Schiffer for that. It's definitely where I know where it's from.
So
you say
this
other people
practice-
can do Disney, nerds like Jews, only Jews can do name it. So there's got to be like a thing.
So anyone can do Disney. Nerds do Disney bounding. And again, thank you to the Shackett Briskin family for teaching me about that nerdy practice.
Nice. I think my answer to the question is very similar to yours. It depends on what flavor of nerd you are. It would be themed to who you are as a person, as a young nerd.
Right.
Okay. So now diving into a nerd medium, do you have a coming of age ritual in a nerd medium that feels similar to a B'nai Mitzvah?
Oh, wow.
Huh.
I know we just spoke about D&D in the last episode, but I think with Dungeons and Dragons, I think my role as a DM is very similar to my role as a rabbi when I'm counseling and teaching upcoming B'nai Mitzvah students. And so as a DM, character creation, that moment where you go from interested in this thing to full on creating a persona that I will do my best to embody during our sessions. To me, it's very ritualistic. There are things you do. And there are things, just like in Judaism, where like maybe movement based, maybe synagogue based, there are different things that a rabbi will tell a student to do. There are different ways to generate characters. Like, the classic with the attributes is, do you roll 3d6 and take them straight? Do you roll 4d6 and take the best? Do you point by? Do you take standard array? So there are different ways to do it, and they're all right, but they're all part of the ritual.
Wait, hold on. I want to, because I have a response to that, but I want to make sure. Ethan, are you asking about things in nerd culture, in nerd mediums, TV shows, movies that have a process similar to a B'nai Mitzvah, or are you asking what he's talking about?
I mean, my intent was, in the universe of X, there is ritual Y that makes me think of this, but RDY's answer was fantastic.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
I still feel like my answer fits what you just explained.
No, I agree. I agree.
I think it
because
does.
Okay.
I think D&D role-playing games is a nerd medium. So for me, and I'll let you go after me, Barak, I think You're welcome. I think of something from Star Wars called The Gathering, which is the rite of passage in the Jedi Order, which is a lesson to teach Jedi initiates how to overcome their personal fears and to find a kyber crystal attuned to their forced presence. And so this is how initiates get the lightsaber crystal to then begin the process of constructing their lightsaber. What I love about it is there is a set ritual to it. So first off, and this is from Wikipedia and it's from watching the Clone Wars, this ritual can only happen every 17 days because of the location of the planet and the star that it's at. And there's a ritual to it where all the initiates have to get past a frozen waterfall, descend into catacombs, and to find the crystals. And what I particularly love about it is a individualized and personalized experience that's guided by the Force. And the younglings face their fears and insecurities in a very personal and targeted sort of experience. And the icing on the cake for me is they are guided and escorted by a Jedi of a higher rank, which oftentimes includes a Padawan, which is an older student. So not even a Jedi master, an older student who is still learning themselves helps to guide the initiates. And so it is someone teaching them who is not, even a full Jedi themselves. There's intergenerational learning going on here. So I think it's a delightful
That's a great example.
That's really cool. That's actually really close to something that I've just instituted at my congregation for upcoming Bar Mitzvah.
Lightsaber crystals?
Lightsaber crystals. I send them down a frozen waterfall. I ask them to find connections to elders in the community, and I don't specify whether it's a year older, a month older, or grandpa's age older, but I have them find a mentor to ritualize and help with a little pre-B'nai Mitzvah ceremony stuff.
That's delightful.
These are, I wish I needed to I need to have researched. I can't think of the only thing that's coming to mind, which I don't know enough about, in the Wonder Woman movie, right? They showed that there was like a competition process and they trained for it. And that's how they became to that next step. That's the only thing I can think of right now, because a lot of other mediums I'm thinking of are just like very individualized processes of changing from one form to another. So I'm going to answer the way RDY did. And I'll say, here's one thing that I'm hoping for in sort of nerd progression with like my kids. When they were less than 1 year old, we took monthly nerdy photos of each of our kids, 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 4 month, 5 month, partly because it's super fun. The other side, I've been making my own Halloween costumes for years, and I go big or go home. And I think there's going to be an age where I can, and I will continue to create fun family costumes for the coming years. But with the age where I get to show and teach them how to create their own, and then they make their own, that is going to be a year for me where like they've done it. Not only are they continuing this, but they're doing it themselves and are self-sustaining that on their own. And I've shown them how, and I can still work with them on it. But I can't think, I'm trying to think of like a good nerd culture institutionalized process. That Star Wars one is a great reference.
It really is.
Thank you.
You know what? That's really like a graduation thing. I was going to say in Monsters University, right? They had to go through the competition and practice to become monsters, but they didn't become official scarers through that. So I don't think that counts either. I'm going to dig through. I'm going to dig through, and we'll include it in some of the posts when this episode comes around. And let us know what life. Help me out with the language here, Ethan. What life ceremonies? What's the
like coming of age ritual?
Yeah, what coming of age ritual do you find in nerd culture? Yeah. Let us know in the comments.
So,
what about when you finally go from player to dungeon master?
I think that's
really, really hard to go back.
Yeah, I think that's great. So and RDY, you began to touch on this a little bit. So as we begin to kind of draw this episode to a conclusion, not everyone has a B'nai Mitzvah ceremony. And you talked earlier about how it's not necessarily about the ceremony itself. It's about the age. And sometimes there are alternatives. And so RDY, I'm curious, just as a rabbi who's done so many B'nai Mitzvah ceremonies, have you ever done like an alternative ceremony or experience for somebody? And then I think to open that up even wider, in the multitude of nerd stories, is there a coming of age story in a nerd medium that took an unexpected path, or where a character took an avenue that was unexpected?
Wow.
There's a lot of questions there, Ethan.
Yeah, one last question.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with the mitzvah experience at my congregation and how we've changed it over the last few years. There is a rubric that is a standard of what people tend to do. And if you are invited to a bar mitzvah celebration, you might find yourself expecting certain things. And I would say that at my congregation in Southern California, you will see 75% of those things for sure, maybe even 100, depending on the kid. Several years ago, I participated in a program sponsored by the URJ called B'nai Mitzvah Revolution. And it was a very interesting program. They did a great job. It was the ideas that came out of that program were not for smaller congregations who couldn't afford to do certain things and didn't have the staff to do certain things and didn't have the participation to do certain things. So the tachlis, the actual doable ideas that came out of that, were not possible for me personally. So I started thinking about how I could revolutionize bar mitzvah. And I was speaking with a colleague, a local rabbi, who was talking to me about his daughter celebrating becoming bat mitzvah. And he described this ritual where they left services and went into the social hall and packed up boxes and boxes of food to be sent to the needy. And then they came back and did Torah, and that's it. But they skipped a lot of the blessings. And I had a look on my face. And he read that look perfectly. And he said to me, it's called a bat mitzvah, not a bat tefillah. And what that means is it's a ceremony about being obligated to the commandments, not about being obligated to the prayers, which I loved. When he said that, and shout out to Rabbi Peter Levy, when he said that, I realized how to make B'nai Mitzvah revolution possible at my congregation. And I talk about there are 4 things that we ask our children to do to prove they deserve the title of bat or bar mitzvah. And that is lead us in prayer. That's 1. And that includes reading from the Torah. Number 2 is teach us, usually in the form of a Devar Torah. Number 3 is commit to a particular mitzvah. Like some congregations would call it a mitzvah project, but I do not like that word because projects begin and end and you never think of them again. So I like commitment to a mitzvah because it allows them to do it for their whole life, hopefully. And the 4th is tzedakah. They give tzedakah. So then I say, these are the 4 things we ask you to do. Which one would you like to be highlighted as you celebrate becoming a bar mitzvah? And there are children who choose leading services, and then that becomes the service that you're used to seeing. Although I do try to have them be more involved in choosing melodies and that kind of thing. They all choose what part of the Torah portion they read. I don't have standard sections of the Torah that they read. They read it and choose. And I'll just give you one example because I could talk about this for an hour, which I do sometimes. We had a student who decided that she wanted to highlight teaching. Her celebration of becoming bat mitzvah happened to be during Sukkot. So we said a couple of opening prayers, and then she led us out into the outdoor sukkah in our congregation. She had 8 tables set up, which was, those of us in the programming world would say 4 stations in 2 universes, which means there were 2 identical stations going at the same time, but 4 different things that people were learning about Sukkot. She had created the learning. She had trained people to run these stations. And we came back and she read Torah and that was it. It was, she did a great job. And so those kind of alternative rituals, I think, are critical to people today who find meaning in various and different ways.
That's awesome.
Great. That's so good.
Fun. I got so wrapped up in that story. Ethan, I don't even remember what your final question was.
Yeah. It was, is there a coming of age story in a nerd medium that took an unexpected path? And for me, I have to think of the OG Captain James T. Kirk of the original Starship Enterprise.
With the Kobayashi Maru.
How did you know? Yes, with the Kobayashi Maru.
Isn't that a sushi restaurant?
Thank you, RDY. The story goes in the academy, cadets have to take the Kobayashi Maru simulation, which is a no-win scenario designed to test students in their ability to cope and handle command and handle an unwinnable situation. Cadet James Kirk famously becomes the only cadet in history to beat the no-win scenario because he cheated and reprogrammed the simulation so he could find a way to beat the no-win scenario. And the story goes, he won a commendation for original thinking.
I can't, my brain doesn't hold as much information as I really want it to sometimes. And these questions are really good questions. And my brain is like over flooding with all this broad topic of everything in nerd culture. Where's the situation where something went wrong? And like my initial reaction is like, well, in movies and TV shows, things always go wrong. So I'm assuming that like, if I were to try to consider one situation of some sort of life ceremonial event, things happened incorrectly and they needed to correct it. And I can't think of one specific thing. So I'm going to say all of them. I can't.
Nicely cheated. Kirk.
Kobayashi Maru'd it.
That's it.
I think about Harry Potter because he is the mitzvah age for a lot of the series. I mean, I know it's a 7-year series, but he starts at age 11. So in the 3rd book, Prisoner of Azkaban, when he happens to be 13, he is struggling with issues of family. The issue of who are the adults he's going to look up to. Like he's looking up to Lupin, but Lupin's got all these problems. He's clinging to
Sirius
Black. who's this long lost relative that he never knew he had, and suddenly he's trusting him immediately, and that's because he has this need for family. And then I don't think he realizes until later in the series that Ron and Hermione are his family, but he has this desperate need for family and he has that moment where he sends the stag to save himself from the Dementors after they've used the time turner.
Yeah.
And when he
spoiler
is
alert
the first time. Yeah. I don't think
I know we're way past. Go on.
How many years? So in the first scene when we read it that he's saved by someone, he thinks it's his dad.
Yeah.
And they've been hinting about how much he looks like his dad. And then in the end he realizes it's him.
Yeah.
And that he saved himself. And that's, I think, a major coming of age moment for him when he realizes that he can save himself, that he does have that power.
That's great. That's great.
And that he is his family.
I almost said Harry Potter for the wand, but I don't know in any other wand situation. Like he went into the Ollivander's shop and the whole thing like really overreacted because that one feather was also the feather and the other, like the one that gave him the scar. But I don't know what everybody else's wand situation was. They probably just walked into the store and that feels nice. But like he had all this stuff go wrong. But that was the only thing I could think of immediately. So I'm going to stick with my all of them answer and just, keep it there.
Great. Well, thank you
all
both.
Of them answer over your Ollivander answer.
Yes.
Thank you both so much. I really enjoyed this discussion. And to you, our listeners, if you would like to write in and contribute some of your favorite coming of age rituals in nerd culture, please feel free to do so. We would love to continue the conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ethan. That was great. All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Torah Smash. Our fiscal sponsor is Jewish Creativity International. Our theme music was created by Sean Fogel. You can check out Sean's bands and studio work at www.thesleepywest.com. This episode is supported in part by Magnetic Shul. Magnetic Shul is a tech-free, self-contained toy perfect for prepared parents, Jewish educators, and youth professionals. The colorful sets invite children to play and create their own stories. Each comes with a synagogue background and over 50 magnets of the people and props we encounter while at shul. Through Magnetic Shul, children are encouraged to play, developing familiarity with sacred space. Ultimately, Magnetic Shul is where kids play to pray. To learn more about Magnetic Shul, visit www.magneticshul.com or contact its creator directly at justin@magneticshul.com. We want to hear from you and continue today's nerdy discussion. Go to torahsmash.com to find where to connect with us online, email us directly, support us with a donation, find previous episodes, and more. And let us here at Torah Smash give you our nerdy blessings, and may your Torah readings all be multiverse. Definitely erasing that part. Hold on, let me go back.